Greetings, Prime Media audiences. Today we have a special guest in the studio. Our guest is Lawrence Freeman. He is a political economic analyst for Africa. Mr. Freeman is a highly respected researcher, writer, and a speaker on a variety of topics concerning Africa. Mr. Freeman, welcome to Ethiopia.
Thank you.
We are very happy to have you in our studio today.
Yes, it is. It's a pleasure to have you, Mr. Freeman.
Yeah, we will start our conversation by asking you a couple of questions about your trip.
Okay.
You were in Nigeria before you come to Addis. You had a day trip to Tigray, which is very interesting, and you just landed from Lalibela.
Correct.
How was your trip?
Well, I spent 2 weeks in Nigeria. I have some very old friends in Nigeria, so we wanted to catch up with each other. But I also have a policy that I'm working for with the Nigerian government as part of the Lake Chad Basin Commission. And I have a project called TransAqua to move water from the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, on a 2,400 kilometer canal into Central African Republic, which would then lead into the Chari River and refurbish the Lake Chad, which has now been reduced in size by 90%, down to 1,500 to 2,000 square kilometers. In the 1960s, it was 25,000. This is critical not only for the countries around the Lake Chad, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Nigeria, Chad, Niger, but we can, through this canal, we would establish a super economic zone of development between the countries of the Great Lakes region and the Lake Chad Basin. One is very wet, one is very dry. So what do? We're human beings. We invent and engineer a canal to solve the problem. The President Buhari, who I've known for a long time, he is completely for the program. But it's a difficulty getting it through government. So that's why I was in Nigeria meeting with contacts and so forth to make that happen. And then I knew I would be going through Addis on Ethiopia Airlines, so I talked to some people about having some meetings here. And as always, this is my fourth trip to Ethiopia. I'm fairly knowledgeable as an American about Ethiopia, and I want to contribute to an understanding of what the current situation is and what the potential solutions are. I was able to make a one-day trip to Mekelle. I met with the administrator of the interim government. It's a short meeting, but we got some ideas across. And then, to my pleasure, which I've wanted to do for years, last night I went to Lalibela and returned today, and it was one of the great experiences of my adult life was to be in Lalibela. I still haven't absorbed fully everything that I saw there, and it will take me weeks and months to fully comprehend everything. And I took a couple hundred pictures, so hopefully we'll get some of those out.
Okay, interesting, especially on your trip to Mekelle. Because that is a very critical area now. Yes. For the entire world. Yes. But not many of us have that opportunity, and we have a lot of controversies going on social media and even on international medias about the situation in the area. So do you have the same observation that you had from media after you...
Well, when you get to Mekelle, it's clear, first of all, the area is very underdeveloped, and this was the case before the war. Mm-hmm. I mean, very undeveloped. From my standpoint, it's unacceptable to have poor roads and poor conditions, and that was pre-war conditions. Now you have a very serious situation with refugees, displaced people, and that's very serious. And that has to be addressed on a national level. You have about 1.7 million what's called IDPs, individual displaced people, and that in Mekelle you have about 100,000. Now I visited a camp. That's not a camp. They're building, the UN and other organizations are building a refugee camp for the internally displaced people, but one will only hold 19,000 people, and there's 100,000 IDPs in Mekelle. Two, I don't know if it's going to get done in time. When it does get done, it's going to be, it rains, it's going to be a lot of mud. These are not the way human beings should be treated. So now you have people living in schools. They're not going to school. People are living in schools. I visited a secondary school, 2,300 people, and they just put mattresses in the classroom, in what used to be classrooms. So this is a serious question, and there has been an improvement, the administrator told me, in USAID. According to him, USAID is now number 2 contributor to humanitarian resources and food, second to Ethiopia. But that's good, but a lot more has to be done. The administrator is optimistic. He thinks that the security situation is only 20% of the area is still insecure from the fighting. And he's optimistic that that would improve. And he didn't want to give a timetable, but he thinks it will improve in the near future. And he said when it does improve, then he will make a request to the Prime Minister to hold a regional election for the people of Tigray, who obviously will not be participating in the national election on June 5th. So it's a big challenge for the country, and realistically, all the countries in the world who want to see stability in the Horn of Africa, which Ethiopia is the key to, should be giving everything they can to help bring stability to this area. We unfortunately have all kinds of individuals and institutions who are fanning the flames in this area, and that's just not what Ethiopia needs right now. Ethiopia needs help. These people need help. They're human beings. It doesn't matter whether they're Tigray and Amhara, it doesn't matter. They're human beings, and they have to be given the basic necessities of life, and they have to bring back an ordered society again. So people go to school, people work, and people produce the value necessary for their lives.
Well, we will come to that in more detail a little bit later, but you were also to Lalibela yesterday?
Yes.
And you enjoyed Lalibela?
This was a profound experience. I'm still absorbing it.
I'm sure you had a prior reading of Lalibela, and now you observe it physically.
Yes.
How's the feeling?
I've read. I mean, that's what I do. I read. I study Africa. I teach African history back in the United States, and I've read about Lalibela many times. To be candid with you, when I come to Addis, I get trapped in Addis in meetings, and I was determined this time I was going to see Lalibela, and it was beyond my expectation. The scenery, the mountain range, I love mountains, and the mountain ranges circle the whole town. Then you go up, and you're up 7,400 feet. That's how high Lalibela is. And then you see this complex of churches and the profound religious, spiritual content that comes to you from these paintings and from the icons and from the caves and the history of it. I mean, I bought 2 books while I was there. I started reading them immediately. It's something that moves you spiritually, gets inside you and moves you. It's like a great piece of classical music or other things like that that stir up your creative powers in you. And I'm still recovering from it because I just came back. And my strong recommendation is everybody should go to Lalibela. Every Ethiopian should go to Lalibela.
That recommendation worked for us too. Yeah, so, well, I mean, you have been moving a lot over the last few weeks, and I also know that you have been to Africa and elsewhere before. But generally, like, the globe is under this COVID challenge.
Yes.
Do you see any change traveling under COVID?
Well, the problem is, I mean, some countries take it more seriously than others, obviously. Obviously, in a place like, or in many countries, but I saw it today in Lalibela, the tourism industry has completely collapsed. Yeah. So I had a guide. He told me this is his first job in a year. And all Lalibela exists around tourism. Yes. I mean, there's souvenir shops, bookshops. So I think it's having a big toll on a number of countries. I know in Kenya, they depend on tourism. They've been hit hard. My view is that we have to vaccinate all 1.5 billion Africans. Mm. And the plans of the African Union and the African Center for Disease Control, they're talking about vaccinating 60 to 70% by the end of 2022. So that's only 720 million Africans. That's not good enough. We have to have every single person vaccinated. My approach, which I gave to people around the Biden administration, is one, give up the patents. these companies got huge subsidies from American taxpayers to build the vaccine, which is good. So they didn't do this on their own. They got huge government help. So now they got government help. That patent should be removed, and every country in the world should be able to develop and produce and manufacture the vaccine. And the only way we're going to deal with this in Africa is we have to have countries with manufacturing vaccine facilities and distribution facilities. Because I was in Nigeria, and a couple of million people, and that's out of 210 million people. If we don't vaccinate everybody, then nobody is going to be safe. Now, I don't think the West thinks this way, but this is the way it should be thinking if we're going to solve the problem. Africans have done relatively better than probably we expected with this COVID, but you can see it takes off, and South Africa is getting probably hit worse than anybody, and that's a very important country for the continent.